Hey, what's up? This is Kendama Jendale and the fake news. It's March 28th, 2017. I haven't done one of these in a minute because, let's face it, nothing important has happened. It's just all been kind of fake news. So I want to just kind of cover the last news cycle and go over a little bit what's happened. So Donald Trump finally played this card that he sort of put into place back in like September or October. This uranium sale to Russia thing, right, is a big part of the Clinton Cash documentary that Breitbart put out. Um, it's not the best documentary. There's definitely some there's some stuff that's misconstrued. There's some stuff that's not well done. Um, but I think parts of I think the documentary is basically intended as bait for the Clintons to instigate a libel suit. And the Clintons know that they can't instigate a libel suit. So the factual inaccuracies, there's just too much evidence piled against them for them to file this lawsuit. Um, the Breitbart team's pretty savvy in that regard. Um, and so this is, I mean, when it comes down to it, the Clinton campaign does have a lot of ties to Russia. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure these ties to Russia are necessarily as dangerous. He's obviously playing this up. I'd be much more worried, for example, about the ties to Saudi Arabia, right, which is equally as dangerous. It's just this is a big part of the reason why this whole talk of foreign interests influencing Donald Trump just doesn't really seem to hold water for me. Because there's no one who's not beholden to those kind of interests. So okay, uh, there's two things going on right now, right? The Russian issue and the wiretapping issue. And these are the same issue. They're being reported as though they're different issues, but they're not. They're different issues. I want to go back and talk about three hops, right? Because the NSA has a mandate. The NSA has to surveil foreign nationals, right? Foreign nationals don't get any privacy in the NSA. Of course, the NSA is forbidden from surveilling domestic people, right? They aren't allowed to surveil U.S. citizens who are in the country. But that's not how NSA surveillance works, right? The goal of NSA is to collect it all. So what they do is they basically say you have 3 degrees of separation. You have three what they call hops between you and a foreign national. So if you are friends with a foreign national, you are being surveilled. If you are friends with someone else who is friends with a foreign national, you are being surveilled. If you are friends with someone who is friends with someone who is friends with someone who is a foreign national, you're being surveilled. And when this came out in 2013, the Guardian put out this very nice infographic. You can slide it up here. Say you have 500 friends, which is more than this. The second degree is going to be 81,000 people, and the third degree is going to be 13,296,000 people. So you can see very quickly that this idea of wiretapping a single person is an obvious misnomer, right? And Trump was very aware of this. It's why the administration has emphasized that he put wiretapping in quotes, right? Because he's familiar with NSA surveillance. He's familiar with corporate surveillance. He knows exactly what's going on here. And the point that I've been making throughout this entire thing, right? You can go back and look at my NSA videos from whenever it was that this story broke, and I basically said this exact thing, that if Trump is talking to Russia, then he was surveilled. If Trump wasn't talking to Russia, then he may not have been surveilled, but let's face it, he probably was still surveilled, right? So this, by accusing Obama of surveilling him, Trump is essentially forcing the Democrats into arguing against himself. Because in the same news cycle, they're arguing these two different points. On one side, they're arguing Trump is a Russian agent, and on the other side, they're arguing that Trump is not being surveilled by the Obama administration, by the NSA, or by any government agency. And the problem is that this shows that we know that that's not true. You cannot have both of those sides as long as the NSA is continuing their 3 degrees of separation, their 3 hops rule. So when we go down and break it down, this whole thing with Nunes that's happening, right, is um, it's theater. Ultimately, what it's doing is they're just slowly playing out their hand and letting the Democrats die on their own sword, right? I mean, he's not going to recuse himself. He's not going to do any of these things. Basically, the Trump makes the claim, "Hey, I got surveilled," and this is almost obviously true, and he's bound to have evidence of this, and he can declassify information, right? So Trump says, "Hey, I got surveilled." Everyone argues with him. "Oh, there's no evidence. There's no evidence. There's no evidence." So he's got the evidence, right? And so he brings Nunes over. He shows the evidence to Nunes, and Nunes then becomes a surrogate. And it's basically the same thing the CIA does with intelligence assets in the journalist community. They'll leak documents to journalists and show them whatever. Is it good? No, it's not. It's not awesome. But is it like grounds for recusal? No, it's not that either. And so this is just another example of, I personally believe that we need really strong opposition against Trump, and this is why I'm so embarrassed by the Democrats, why I'm so disappointed that they appear to be doubling down on losing just over and over and over again. Um, they're being outplayed. They're being outplayed, and they're still fighting and argue. They're still arguing with Trump from back in September or in October, right? They haven't gotten to that point in the news cycle yet. Trump's been doing work since then. It's March right now, and 6 months later, the Democrats are still back before the election. They have so much cognitive dissonance that they haven't caught up. It's very disappointing. Um, all right, I just want to bring attention to this. I'm really frustrated that I'm like having to go to Breitbart for this, right? But like, I don't think Breitbart is an accurate source. I think the only reason you should read Breitbart is to get an understanding for what the Trump supporters' narrative is. Because if you read Fox News, you won't get an understanding of that narrative. You'll only get the GOP hardline narrative, right? Which is, I mean, Fox News is the GOP propaganda outlet, right? If you only watch MSNBC, well, you shouldn't do that. If you only watch CNN, right, you're gonna get this weird skewed perspective of what is going on, and you can kind of get these sort of conventional mainstream narratives, right? The left, the right, the sort of center corporate narrative. But the problem is Trump doesn't really subscribe to all these narratives, and the entire point of Breitbart is that it allowed Trump to basically write his own narrative, right? And so Breitbart hated Paul Ryan's plan. They called it Obamacare 2.0. And they talk about how bad it's going to be, how much it's going to ruin stuff, and this is the important part. They say Obama 2.0 will be labeled as Trump care, and the Democrats and their media allies will highlight every hard case to attack Republicans for hurting the poor and the elderly, right? So here you have Trump publicly supporting, right, this he's supporting this bill even though he's not fighting for it, he's not endorsing it. He's basically allowing Paul Ryan to fall on his own sword, right? And so what's going to come next, right? I don't know what Breitbart wants. I actually haven't read this. I think what you're going to look at is you're going to see a combination of I think you're basically going to get a voucher system, right? So you're going to get a free market healthcare, right? And this is just basically trying to figure out some kind of policy that reconciles all of Trump's statements, right? So Trump has said that he wants to work with Democrats. Trump has said that he wants to work with the Liberty Caucus. Or Trump hasn't said that, excuse me. But Breitbart has supported the Liberty Caucus. The Trump supporters on Reddit have supported the Liberty Caucus. They're really big fans of Rand Paul, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what's he looking at, right? So what I'm hypothetically proposing as Trump's solution is he's basically going to create a voucher system, right? And everyone gets $500 a month because that's what the government spends right now per capita on healthcare. We spend roughly $6,000 per person on healthcare, right? And when it comes down to it, is like that's enough to pay for really good medical care, right? And maybe not good insurance for Obamacare, but pre-Obamacare, $500 a month is going to get you some pretty good medical service. And obviously, I mean, that's some of that is going to support ER visits and things like that. But I mean, when it comes down to it, there's really no system that's inefficient as ours, right? Things can really only get more efficient. And I think he's going to sell this voucher system to the left, right? He's going to sell it to Democrats and he's going to sell it to progressives because it's free health care for everyone. And that's what the progressives want. It's not single payer. Trump has supported single payer in the past. Don't forget that. It's not single payer, but it is health care for everyone. And then he's going to turn around and he's going to sell it to the libertarians because he's going to offer these concessions. They're going to downsize or eliminate Medicare and Medicaid, right? So because they're no longer necessary because everyone's getting a voucher system. And as a result, it'll reduce costs across the board. Um, I could be completely wrong about this. I have literally nothing to back this up, but this is just kind of my conjecture of what I believe a Trump healthcare policy would look like. And I think he's basically going to walk over to the Democrats. Democrats are slowly but surely going to forget they hate Trump. He's going to get the libertarians on his side, and that's going to be the new Trump coalition. It's going to be the progressives and the libertarians. Um, because I mean, both of those groups are really going to be, I think, aligned against the quote unquote deep state. Um, that's where I see this sort of policy thing heading. I don't know. We'll find out. I could be completely wrong. That's just my best educated guess, but we'll see. Okay, this is from Privacy News Online, which I don't really know what that is. I think it looks like it's a VPN um, sales pitch thing, um, which, to be perfectly honest, I don't have a problem with in this case. It's being reported in a lot of other websites. It's very clearly um, happening. Basically, the Senate just passed a law that says your internet service provider can sell your browsing history to advertisers. Now, in the past, of course, the NSA has all your browsing history, your ISP has all your browsing history, but selling it to advertisers mean that there's now thousands of corporations who can see your private history. Um, you can see everything you look at online, even if you go to private browsing or anything like that. They're still going to see everything you're doing. Thousands of companies are going to see everything you're doing. So I would highly encourage you to go ahead and buy a VPN. Buy a VPN, tunnel your traffic through in an encrypted fashion. It's really easy to do, it's really easy to set up. Do this so that you aren't giving your internet browsing history to thousands of companies. Um, Very important. Very important. This is a Dr. Phil show that I would encourage everyone to watch. It's about human trafficking. It's about a victim of human trafficking. There's a victim of sex trafficking. Um, it's a very sobering hour of television. I've never seen anything like it. Um, and to anyone who's remotely interested in dealing with sex trafficking as a phenomenon, the epidemic of sex trafficking, this is a powerful, powerful segment. I really never watched Dr. Phil before this. I thought he was kind of a hack. I was tremendously impressed by his class and his grace in handling this issue. I think he did a tremendous job and would really encourage everyone to watch it. All right, that's it for today. Thanks.